This is Elle. Today I wanted to talk about two different approaches to strategy which are in contrast with each other, and talk about the pros and cons of each. The first approach is of preemptive, tedious, and precise planning, entering a situation already educated about the details with a good idea in mind about how things will go, as well as what backup plans there are just in case certain variables should change. The second approach is attentive, reactive, and adaptive, entering a situation without a solid plan while being prepared to adapt step by step. In chess terms, the differences in these approaches is just the difference between a chess player who plans 8 moves ahead versus a chess player who only plans 1 move ahead, but it's always the right move. So the question is, which is the better approach? Well, the thing is when planning ahead so far, if there are any variables you miss which may affect the outcome, your plan could end up failing entirely. If your plan fails, then you'll find yourself unprepared and be forced to adapt, perhaps unexpectedly. With the second approach, one begins with the knowledge that adaptation will be necessary. However, only planning 1 move ahead will inevitably narrow the options available to you. Planning further ahead will usually open up more potential options for you, but will leave you in the dark should any part of the plan fail. The question then is there some sort of compromise I can make? Is there a middle ground between these? Well, yes. If one plans several moves ahead and also accounts for the most likely points of failure, a series of backup plans can be arranged. Put another way, if your plan includes 6 steps, and based on what you know about the situation, at step 4, for example, you know there is some variability about how it will go. So you simply make one plan that includes all 6 steps, and then a backup in which the last 2 steps are changed based on how step 4 might go. Another way to go about it is, you can formulate a plan. Let's just stick with the example of a plan which contains 6 main steps, and at every step you would account for possible failure and be prepared to adapt. Consider ahead of time what sort of adaptations might be necessary at each step, at each point of failure. I don't advocate planning for failure, just for accounting for unknown variables. There is one more problem inherent in any long-term planning, that each step of the way you'll be paying attention to the transition to the next step of the plan. You'll be waiting for each step to come to fruition. So why is this a problem? Because you are not, as the expression goes, living in the moment. You'll be constantly distracted with this image you've created of the future. This image may be inaccurate and cause a sort of psychological blindness. So which method is the best? Well, I think it's always situational. If you have a full understanding of every relevant variable in play related to your plan, a careful, thought-out, long-term plan may prove the most successful. If your knowledge of the variables at play is loose or probabilistic, it may be better to play it by ear and be prepared to adapt. Plan 1 move ahead at a time. The reason I've made these distinctions is to make the point that you should adjust your method of strategizing according to how much you really know about the subject of your planning. Never try to create an elaborate plan if you don't know all the variables. To avoid being too tedious on these points, I think I'll end this here. My point seems clear enough by now. Please feel free to comment and discuss this. If there's anything that is unclear, I would like to help clarify what I meant. Thank you for listening.